Cool. So yeah, I went on a holiday, a business trip a few weeks ago to California, to the Facebook Developer Conference. Ooh, it does vibrate the first time. Just a bit. So the Facebook F8 is what they call it. Is the Facebook Developer Conference where they announce all of their latest and greatest innovations and things that developers from around the world have been working on in the last year. If anyone's wondering why it's called F8, it's actually what the Facebook developers used to call their code sprints when they were actually building Facebook. So they figured if you couldn't build it in 8 hours, it wasn't worth pursuing. Yeah, that's how they do their move fast and break things. So I'll just take you through some of the key announcements. You've probably heard of a lot of them already, but there was a ton of them. And these are just some of the ones that I picked out that were pretty cool. And then I'll tell you about some of the developer tools that they released that we can now get our hands on and start playing with some of the stuff that's actually working behind the scenes at Facebook. So the first thing that they really brought home there was that Facebook Messenger has grown in a huge way over the past year or so. There's now 300,000 active Messenger bots, and 8 billion messages are sent every month between people and businesses on Facebook Messenger. So they've thrown a ton of resources into it. They're going to give it a full facelift and make it simple, redesign the whole interface, remove all of the extra stuff like all those games and bits and pieces that you don't use. Dark mode, so you can sit on Messenger all bloody night if you want. And recurring theme, everything that they announced is coming very soon. So whatever that means. This was probably the coolest thing that they announced the whole time, which was M translations. So M is Facebook's version of Google Assistant or Siri or Amazon Alexa that works within Messenger. And right now, you've probably seen it, it only suggests things like create appointment or tells you a funny sticker to use or something. But what they're using it for now is in the Facebook Marketplace, people can talk at the moment in Spanish, and it will automatically translate that to an English-speaking person. So this means in real time, you could talk to someone in whatever language you want, and they'll see it in the language that they need to see it in. So they're going to keep rolling that out in Facebook Marketplace and eventually into Messenger. So that just makes the world like a really small place. Keeping in with the using Messenger bots for talking to people, they're bringing the experience to your own website. So you can take a Facebook Messenger bot and plug it into your website with a simple JavaScript embed code. And that'll allow your customers to talk to you on your website through Facebook Messenger. And then you can pick up that conversation later on whatever device you want. So that's Facebook basically saying, don't worry about any other live chat thing, we can just handle everything in one spot. Yeah, you can make Zuckerberg faces with mustaches. So they're bringing, already in the Facebook camera, you've got some augmented reality type stuff that you can play with, but they're bringing that into Facebook Messenger really soon. So right now, there are a few brands in the US that are pioneering this with Facebook to work out the best ways of actually doing this and using it for something useful other than sticking a moustache on your face for no reason. So I'll show you a couple of those examples because they were really cool. So the first one was Nike. So what they're doing is a thing called a sneaker drop. All the cool kids apparently know what that is, right, Jeremy? So what they're doing is every time a new shoe releases, it'll come into your Facebook Messenger if you're a friend of the bot. You'll be able to see the shoe, it'll give you some kind of red carpet experience. You can look around the shoe, have a bit of a play, and then you can just buy it from right there in Messenger. So you never go to the Nike website, just straight through Messenger. And the same with Sephora for makeup. So what they've done is they've set up a few different looks or whatever it is, and you can try them on and then click the button and buy all of that makeup from Sephora without leaving Messenger. And the other two brands that are working on at the moment are Asus and Kia. And then eventually they're going to roll that out across to other developers to be able to do what they want. So right now I'm on the waiting list for that. Who knows when they'll actually let that out. And they're going to bring the same thing to Instagram. So you can, but I think for Instagram it's just going to be moustaches and hats. This one was quite cool. Apparently Facebook Stories is used a lot more than I thought it was. So they're opening that up to developers to integrate their apps with Facebook Stories. So right now, Spotify and GoPro are road testing it. So you can share what you're listening to straight into it. But yeah, once they open that up, we'll be able to connect our apps to Facebook Stories without actually signing into Facebook at all. So the app will just take care of that behind the scenes and push it to your story. Not too sure how that works just yet, but apparently it does. So this was released last year at F8, which was the crisis updates. So you might have seen it. You can just mark whether you're safe in an earthquake or something like that. What they've done now is updated it a bit more so that you can actually provide real-time updates on what's happening at the incident. So this will give people real-time information on road closures and that sort of stuff. As well as in, I've got right there, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, they've opened it up for blood donations. So I can register as a blood donor if I lived in India, and if there's a crisis and people need blood, they can hit the button there and it'll actually show where the nearest blood clinics are. And it'll also send people a message that are a blood donor to say, hey, can you get to that nearest blood clinic and give us some blood because we're running out. And the Oculus Go. So yeah, this was pretty cool. They actually gave us one of these. So this was our free prize for attending the conference. So it's the first time that someone's made a completely standalone VR kit. So we've had the Samsung Gear where you put your phone in, but this is the exact same as the Oculus Rift, but completely standalone. Doesn't need a PC or anything to hook it up. You just stick it on and away you go. It's got the exact same specs as the Oculus Rift, but it's got a better display, and it only costs $250, whereas the Oculus Rift I think is about $500. So it's a great way to get started with VR and makes it more accessible to people. On that note, they're making it much easier to develop for VR now. They've actually released a React framework for VR. So it's the exact same framework that we're all used to in using React, but specifically for VR. They're also working on a new technology called 6 degrees of freedom, which means you'll be able to do things like, if you've used a VR headset, you've probably noticed you can't focus on anything. So if you pick up a piece of paper in VR, it's still quite blurry when you bring it to your face. With the 6 degrees of freedom, you'll actually be able to focus on that. So the lens will move in and out with your eye. And that headset is actually the same size as the Oculus Rift and standalone. So that tech's getting better and cheaper. It also has, the Santa Cruz one has these hyper-realistic renderings of 3D spaces. So the next slide's actually a video of a room side by side. One of them's real and one of them's VR.
It's not that easy, huh? Okay, the real one is
The left.
on the left. and the reconstructed is on the right, and the clue was at the bottom left, where you could have seen the shoe of the person recording the original video. That's Julianne, by the way.
Yeah. So the only way you could tell the difference was the person's shoe in the video. It is a little bit harder, a little bit easier to tell them apart when you see it close up, but on the big screen there it looked pretty real. So yeah, like I said, the augmented reality is coming to Instagram as well. So we'll be able to do this was a dunk cam thing, so you can dunk on your friends if you're that way inclined. And they're also revamping the Explorer tab. So when you press the little search button now, it's just a mess of different photos from all over the place. That's all going to be organized by hashtag and also relevant to what you've been looking at on Instagram. This feature is really cool, and I think it's going to roll out across all of Facebook's platforms, is they've got a machine learning anti-bullying filter. So if you've got it turned on and people are writing offensive stuff in your comments, it automatically just filters it out and doesn't even make it to your feed, which is a great way of just cleaning up the mess that's Facebook comments, because it's pretty nasty on there sometimes. If you want to try it out, I'll give you Maurice's Instagram later. There's also going to be group video chats coming to Instagram, so that makes it a little bit more WhatsApp-y. You can hang out with your friends, flick through the Instagram feed while running a group chat at the same time. Obviously, big thing for Facebook was the whole data privacy thing. They basically just turned around and said that they have a huge responsibility now to try and build up some trust again after the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal, which, if you don't know what that is, then have a Google and waste a few hours on that. They basically just turned around and said, we messed up, the policies weren't right, and we need to fix that. So what they've done is they've pulled out a whole new load of features and some policies that I'll explain a little bit now. So they've rolled out they haven't rolled this out yet. They said this is coming very soon. It's a clear history feature. So you can basically just wipe your Facebook and start again. You could also work out which websites have been viewing your app data and how they're using it, and block certain websites from using your data. They don't know how far this is off, so we don't know how effective it's going to be, or whether it's just a bit of smoke and mirrors to make it look like they're trying to do something. Political ads are going to be under a lot more scrutiny. So if you want to post a political ad, anyone that sees that ad is going to see exactly who's paying for it, which should stop people in Russia paying for them, that sort of thing. As well as a stricter verification process to even get a political Facebook account. And then they put it back on us developers, like of course they were going to, and making it a lot harder to submit a Facebook app. So now if you want to make a Facebook Messenger bot, there's a whole heap of steps you've got to jump through to get it approved by Facebook. Every app that's currently accessing their API is getting pulled through their machine learning and their actual developers. I think they said they had a team of like 2,500 people just going through them every day, which isn't that many people when you think about how many Facebook apps there are, but they're making a bit of an effort. And they just basically said that, all developers should be taking responsibility for giving users better control over their privacy with the apps, because regulation will come. It's already happened in Europe, and now we'll get it here soon too. So just get started now. So they gave us some new toys to play with, which is pretty cool. They've given us PyTorch 1.0, which is actually the machine learning and deep learning algorithms that they use at Facebook for things like the anti-bullying filter, making sure that you're getting the right stuff in your newsfeed, the Instagram Explore tab, all that sort of stuff is powered by this PyTorch product. And that's now open sourced, so you can start having a play and getting hold of those deep learning libraries and all that sort of stuff and using them in your own projects. With AI, which isn't a new thing. It's been around now for a few years, but Facebook bought it about 4 years ago. And that's a natural language processing tool that will, basically, if you're making a messenger bot, you could say to it, book me a table at Old Faithful for tonight. It will then take that apart and grab the keywords book, Old Faithful, and tonight, and turn that into something that your app can then use. So some variables that your app can use. Cool thing about that one is it's actually open source. So when you're teaching your app different phrases, it's teaching everybody's apps different phrases. So it just gets better and better as more and more people use it. Messenger platform's got a whole heap of updates that we can now use. So you've got a handover protocol, which means if I'm making a chatbot and it doesn't understand something that I say to it, it will, behind the scenes, kick it off to a human operator that picks it up, and the user was none the wiser that you had done that switch over. The augmented reality platform, so that's opened up now for users on Windows as well. For a while it was only Mac. And yeah, so you can do the AR in Messenger and Facebook, and the React 360 stuff as well, which is pretty interesting if you want to do some VR in the web. And yeah, app reviews are all open again. So when the Cambridge Analytica thing happened, Facebook shut down all apps. Now you can start doing it again. And there was an unexpected bonus event on the way home. On the way back to San Francisco, I met some guy on the train that was going to a meetup at Slack, and I was like, that sounds sick. And just hang out at Slack and drink their beer. Turned out it was actually pretty interesting anyway. So it was a chatbot meetup, so it was chatbot developers from all over the world. And they just showed off a bunch of the cool stuff they were doing. A lot of it was around activations. So for example, at the Facebook conference, to get hold of the swag, you had to use the camera in Facebook to activate an AR treasure map, and then go around and find the different treasure points, and then submit it via Messenger to get a code to go and pick up your t-shirt and water bottle at the end. A lot of the guys there, and girls actually, were from Austria and Brazil, and they actually noticed that the developers for chatbots are becoming more in demand than the developers for the web over there. The conversational commerce thing has picked up huge. And yeah, so overall, it's a really long journey. I don't recommend going to America for a few days. It's a stupid idea. But it's totally worth it. For 2 days worth of conference, you just take home so much knowledge. Heaps of contacts at Facebook and Twitter and Slack and a few other of the big companies that you can just now hit up for help with some stuff. And yeah, I just wanted to get straight back on the train and start coding when I got out of there. So the big things now, I think, are going to be, that have come out of this, will be machine learning and AI. The fact that they're open sourcing their tools and things like that are making it more accessible for us. We can get stuck into that, get that into some of our projects. Taking a bit more care of the data privacy. I know we all have email sign-up forms and all sorts, and we don't really think too much about it, but we need to start thinking about how we're storing people's data and what we're doing with it. I think we're going to see more augmented reality and VR projects happening, with it becoming more accessible to develop and cheaper to develop. The headsets are getting cheaper. I think people might start picking it up a bit more. And conversational commerce will start becoming a thing here. So conversational commerce is that being able to pick up a chatbot, talk to it, and complete the transaction all in that one spot without having to go to a website and buy stuff. And that's it. There's a picture of DT.